We're going to start today's podcast with Bilal taking off his jacket.
We started?
That was the start.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Oh, we started. Leave it all in. Hello, and welcome to Got a Problem, Mate podcast. Your favourite podcast now. We're over 20 episodes in. Is that right?
Yeah, way over.
Bloody hell, man.
We're pushing 30 now.
Really? It is a podcast where we get incredible guests on to talk about.
So today we get an incredible guest on.
Well, listen.
I'm very excited
this,
about
right?
this.
Before this, the guests we've had. Can you even call them guests?
Once it was genuinely someone we found upstairs because our guest cancelled.
That happened.
But other than that,
that happened. Let's be honest, we've had a bunch of scum on here, but today we've got a proper guest.
Yeah.
See, and he doesn't even know we view him as the only first proper guest.
I think Rob the football commentator was the first proper guest.
Yeah, no, I am joking when I'm insulting all of our previous guests, of course. Like, I do love all of them.
Some of them. Anyway, but yeah, a proper bona fide guest today, and and I've done some research, and I've been looking up that's not his real name, so I'm only going to refer to him by his real name.
No,
I'm going to refer to him
Scroobius Pip is a given.
No.
Yeah, I've seen his passport.
I've seen it on Wikipedia.
I mean, I spoiled people know who it is.
Yeah, because they've clicked on the episode.
Yeah. Should we just get him in and then do everything?
I'm so excited about this. I don't really need to talk to you.
No, let's not do that today.
I don't care that you're at the Edinburgh Festival.
No,
we've done that.
Should we just get him in and then do the intros?
Let's get him in. Let's not waste his time.
Let's not waste his time.
Yeah.
He's going to a museum later.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out about that.
Yeah. Let's do an intro each, right?
Yeah.
That's what we normally do.
Love it.
And you can pick your favourite.
Okay, I will.
But you also don't have to.
No, I will. I would like to.
Okay. Right.
You don't have to do anything you don't. Today's guest, everyone, is someone that I got to know through Twitch, but it's someone that I was a fan of a very long time ago. Like, I think when I was at uni, he was putting a lot of music out that I got into. Maybe even towards the end of sixth form. It's hard to remember. He also had a show on XFM, and he introduced me to The Roots, who are probably my favourite rap group. Man, do you like them?
Yeah, but make this more about our guest, not about your love of The Roots.
The Roots formed in Philadelphia. He does all sorts of stuff though. Multi-talented person. He's going into like the acting and I think maybe filmmaking world. We'll find out about that potentially. Went to Cannes Film Festival I saw recently. What's all that about? And I'm very happy that he's on Twitch. I think it's perfect for him and etc. And please everyone welcome Scroobius Pip.
Joey's
going to do it.
Can I do mine now?
Yeah, he's going to do an intro. But
yeah.
he's done, like,
do you want to redo yours?
No.
You want to keep it like that?
That was good.
All right, cool. Everybody watching or listening to this, what a great guest we've got today. His name's Scroobius Pip. He's done absolutely everything. He's a polymath of entertainment. One of the most successful podcasts in the UK or the world. I think he might have even invented podcasting, potentially. It's actually genuinely a podcast that I listen to as I go up and down the motorways, performing to deadbeats like you. And also an actor, musician. He's had so many careers. Got a record label. We're so lucky to have him in the studio. It's Scroobius Pip.
Thank you.
And also, this is weird. And the second time I'm gonna bring this up in 2 weeks. I said it the other week because I am a bit of a wrestling nerd. Also, look like my favourite ever wrestler. Do you know who that is?
Brody Lee.
Yeah.
Fucking got it in one, didn't I?
Yeah.
I went on Chris Jericho's podcast.
Oh,
and he posted the photo, and everyone thought he had Brody Lee on.
Yeah, right.
It was before Brody Lee died. Obviously,
right.
That would have been.
Let's do that now.
Very distasteful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love a bit of wrestling as well.
Oh, yeah.
Your intro, I managed to fit all of that into my Twitch bio.
Yeah.
And my Twitter bio, in fact.
That's
so
impressive. But
your intro, we've interacted a few times, right? We've never interacted, and you haven't brought up the fact that I introduced you to The Roots. Genuinely, every time I'm in your chat on Twitch, every time we're in person. Yeah. So it's I'll call it a draw, I reckon.
That was the one thing I didn't know about you, is that you did XFM.
Yeah, I did that. I did it for 1 year, and then I wanted to start a podcast, and XFM weren't interested in podcasting at that point. So I said, all right, I'm going to go off. It was a weird, I'm starting off with a brag, but at the end of this first year, I won a Sony award, which like XFM didn't
Yeah.
really do shows that went in for that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I was a late night show, I did like weirder stuff. So I won this award, and I went back to them thinking, oh, the award will give me some clout. I was like, can I A, have some more money, and can I B, start doing a podcast as well? And they were like, nah. So I was like, all right, I'll go.
You didn't mention the Sony Award in your intro, mate.
Yeah.
I didn't
Had
say
to
you're
get that in
XFM's
quickly.
Danny Baker.
Yeah. Yes.
But you are a Millwall fan as well, right?
I am a Millwall
Yeah.
fan. I used to eat in the same cafe as Danny Baker before each game.
Oh,
It's not there anymore.
that's a shame.
Ah.
Been gentrified out.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I do bring up the roots thing often. It's
You're gonna bring it up again?
it's just it's weird for me because it's like I didn't know you at all. It's weird. I was actually introduced to you briefly by Rob Orton ages ago, but it was such a fleeting thing.
Love Rob.
And because
Yeah,
I
he's
liked
great.
your stuff so much, and I listened to your podcast, all of that stuff, it's weird because you came out of nowhere on Twitch, and then it's like I suddenly know you.
Yeah. I found that with all of Twitch. Like, it was so weird. I got to kind of jump into a pre-made community. It feels like almost. I kind of, and you were like me in that community because you were the bridge. So I had David Earl's community and I had Limmy's community, and David Earl and Limmy don't know each other at all, don't cross over at all. So it was really weird that I kind of appeared and had this crossover audience of the two, and they turned out to be a lot of your audience as well. Because we both sit in between those two.
That's lovely, man.
Let's just talk about Twitch a bit more, shall we?
I controversially quit Twitch.
Really?
Twitch.
Yeah, because it wasn't popular
Yeah,
enough. But
that happens.
so what do you do on there?
Well, I'm kind of, I was taking it more seriously at the start, and then I had a break, and now I just turn up and play whenever I want. But I've done little things like little short film type ideas on there. I do a load of gaming. I play a bit of PUBG, a wrestling game. There's a wrestling game called Wrestling Revolution 3D, which was all made by one guy, and it's absolutely bonkers. It's
that
ridiculous.
sounds great.
He has loads. It's like the Pro Evo days. Like, he's not got the rights to any of the wrestlers. So there's one guy called Matt Showman,
Right.
which sounds like Macho Man. Obviously, there's controversial one, Crispin Noir.
Right.
So and it's just there's loads of people like that,
Yeah.
and it's genius. So and again, it's all made by one guy, so it's janky and clunky and glitchy, but it's so much fun.
Good, isn't it?
The storyline's just insane. He's written these mad stories. So you do career mode, and like after each match, you have all the news reports from that week, and it would literally be like, this guy has lost some weight recently. And that'll be it. You're like, what am I meant to take from this? And then the next one would be, the guy who's meant to be Vader, he died yesterday.
Oh.
Onto the next, like, it would be so bland to so intense in no time at all. And he's made 3 of them now, I think, and they're just can't recommend them enough.
Oh, that sounds fun, man. How was the Cannes Film Festival?
Yeah, really old and white.
Yeah.
If you're into old white people.
Well, I'm doing the Edinburgh Fringe.
yeah, you'll see a lot of that. No, it was cool, man. I've got this film in development, and I've just started attaching an amazing cast off the strength of the script, which means I'm now having loads of meetings. But half the meetings I had in Cannes were amazing, half I thought were awful. And I came away thinking, where's the version of Cannes for young, cool people? And to be clear, I don't think I'm a young, cool person, but Cannes made me feel like a young, cool person, and that's the problem with Cannes. It felt so just old and industry and just rich people, which is the point of it. You're going there to try and get funding and things like that. But
as someone who is approaching their 40s, I don't think, so I would say this, I don't think it's really about like your actual age. It's like your influences and things like that, which obviously
I'd agree on that.
I've listened to your podcast loads, so therefore I know the kind of people that you're interested in.
Yeah.
So I think you can call yourself young and relevant.
Yeah, I guess so.
It sounds hard. So you're going around pitching an idea to people.
That's the heartbreaking bit, right? Because when that goes well, it's beautiful. I had one guy, and I sat down, and he had his laptop and his phone out, and I'm kind of waiting, thinking, he'll be finished in a minute. And he's like, do you want to begin? And I was like, all right. And I went to begin. He said, look, at the end of the day, the markets are open and I've got films to sell. And I was like, all right. And I pushed through and did my pitch. It's the one regret I had at Cannes. I wish I'd walked out, because on that one, it's like, we're just not going to get on. And on any of
he
these
should
things,
just slammed his laptop lid
Yeah.
shut. Just walked
Listen.
off.
it was on a balcony. I could have frisbeed it off the balcony. See
And
you
still
later,
done the
nerd.
pitch.
Yeah,
You stay there and shout it.
But
That's
stuff like
mad.
that's weird. And at the time, I thought, right, this is where I need to prove I'm a professional and push through it and get through. Everyone in the industry I've told that story since has said, dude, you should 100% have walked out of that, because
But
it's
you
like,
wouldn't
why
know
would you do that?
You wouldn't know
Yeah.
that. Like, you have
My
a lot
instinct
of that.
was to do that, but then I
Yeah.
thought, no, this is where it gets tough. Because up till then, it'd been a joy. I've written this film. It's a really weird script. I've shown it to my favourite actors and they've loved it. I've started showing it to the industry people and they've loved it. So it's like, this felt like this is the hard bit. This is where it gets tough. But yeah, it just turned out he was a dickhead.
And is it a full length film?
Yeah, it's a feature film.
Yeah, right. So can you, as somebody that's never written anything of that length before, can you maybe give us a little bit of the process? Like, how do you finish something that big? Because I think I would struggle.
Do either of you know Moose Rock Wonga?
Oh, I know who he is. Yeah,
Really good writer. He's a good spoken. He used to do a lot of spoken word.
Isn't
Amazing
he a
dude.
is he a football
He does
guy as well?
football journalism.
Yeah.
He does Ian Wright's podcast with
Oh.
him, and he does. What's his other one? He's got another one that's
For
really
like
popular.
people that don't know, Ian Wright is scum.
He's a
Outrageous.
Coys boy, everyone. These things are going to happen, unfortunately.
But yeah, Musa at one point told me, like, Musa had the football book out called The Cultured Left Foot, which was absolutely amazing, because a poet writing about football is just a beautiful thing. Like, the way he describes what Messi does in this book is amazing. He talks about Zidane, and he compares Zidane to parkour, because prior to The Office, the point of parkour has always been, the idea is meant to be to get from A to B in the quickest way possible if there were no obstacles. And that's how he sees how Zidane plays. A Ronaldo has flair. Zidane, it always felt functional. So he's like this amazing poet, right? But he, like, when that book came out, I was chatting to him and he was like, oh yeah, he'd written 4 novels up to that point, and just they're on his computer. Mad. And that was a massive inspiration, going, oh right, it's about finishing things. You think it's about selling things.
Yeah.
You think it's about, there needs to be demand for this and all that. And he really made me realise it's about finishing things. So before this feature film, I've had a couple of TV shows in development. I've written 2 or 3 more feature film scripts, but this is the first one that I'm going, this is the one that needs to go out there. So
okay, so but like, when you're in the process of doing that, is it like you just do it when you've got a bit of time, or are you like, do you have a process where you're like, right, every Monday at this time I'm doing 8 pages, or like, how do you work? Because you're like mad productive.
Yeah.
And I feel like my problem always is, and this is what my actual problem is this week, just not very good at finishing things. I've got loads of things I've started but never really finished enough stuff. And you seem like a madly productive guy. And it's like, I think also one of my problems is I like to go out and have like a good time or whatever. Like, are you just like not having a life and you're just doing stuff?
I'm not into fun, so
right,
that is a key. I don't rate fun. But no, again, I think it's also personal and individual. But I found that with a big project, like a book or a script, the key for me for getting it done was, again, at times I'd have a tight schedule. I'm doing it every day. At times I wouldn't. With the first script I wrote, I went away on like a writing week. I booked this hotel and I was like, I'm going to get all this writing done. I got 2 pages written. But
classic.
The week I got home, I got almost the whole script written off the back of that, because I didn't beat myself up in that way. If I wasn't inspired, I'd go and walk about and I'd think about it all, and then it percolates. So the key for me, I've learned, is knowing when to stop.
Right.
So when I'm writing, I will always stop kind of before I'm done, if you know what I mean, just so that starting the next day is exciting and positive, because you know what's to
That's
come.
good advice.
You know
man.
what's to come. You know, like, oh, I'm onto that scene next. Yeah. So you kind of hold off on that, so you hit the ground running each day, rather than on that day you get everything out and then you start next day like, right, well, that's all I knew up to this point.
I wrote like 45 minutes of a script in one go and then just left it.
Yeah, basically. Exactly. Yeah. But if you'd got to that scene before the last one and started that the next day, because it's momentum. I think if you're sitting down, Tim Clare gave me some advice. He's a good writer as well, and he would always say, small goals. So rather than I want to write a book, start with I want to sit down at my desk today. Well, that's it. Literally, going even further back, he'd say, I want to sit down at my desk and I want to open up my laptop.
Yeah.
I want to start a document. I want to write a word. I want to write a paragraph. And things like that. Because breaking it down into small chunks is far more realistic. This is going to sound really hippie, but I think that's the case with problems in the world, right? I think we all get really desensitized and overwhelmed with the global problems because we see everything now, like global warming's fucked, politics is fucked, all of this kind of thing. That's really hard to think how to overcome, but you can look at your world and what's going on in your area, or how you can improve things in your area, how you can improve smaller things, and it becomes more achievable. And if we all do that.
Bilal actually thinks that politics is going well.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's decent. It's worked out right.
I think Rishi's all right.
Yeah, I think he seems like a cool guy.
Quiet.
I've subscribed to Matt Letitia's newsletter. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I can imagine. I bet it's cracking.
So I'd like to ask you, your podcast, you've been doing it for so long now.
Yeah.
Is it 500
How many?
and something episodes?
Yeah, 525 is this week, I think.
Wow, right.
I was sitting over there as you were saying, God, we've done over 30. Have we really done over 30?
Yeah,
And I was sitting there like,
You're
oh,
laughing
really?
at us. We haven't even got to 30 yet. I think this is like 26 or 27, something like that. But maybe not even that. But is there a guest? Who would be your dream guest that you haven't had yet? Is there something you really are dying to get on the podcast?
Yeah, that's tough. Again, I've had a lot. I almost stopped the podcast after I had Gaspar Noé on because he's my favourite director of all time. And that came last minute. I had like 4 hours to prepare. And when it's your favourite director and your dream guest, like I like to do loads of prep, so it was like nerve-wracking, but it went better than I could have hoped. He's notoriously awkward at times, and it was amazing. And then I had Stephen Fry on, and I almost stopped the podcast after that because that was another one. Because my first big hit, Thou Shalt Always Kill, had the line, Thou Shalt Not Question Stephen Fry. The fact that I spent an hour asking questions to Stephen Fry was kind of, I was like, this could be the perfect time to draw a line under it all. But then a new guest always gets pitched and comes along. So I don't know. I think half the time this is going to sound like a real cop-out, but I feel this with acting roles as well. I came into acting going, I'd love to be in Peaky Blinders or in a Shane Meadows film or whatever else. And then you realise that when people ask, like, what's your dream role, 90% of the time it's a role you're not aware of yet.
Yeah.
So
right.
I did the first, like when I was moving into acting, I had no agent, no manager, and I was just hustling to try and get in rooms. And I told this story a few times. Nina Gold was casting like a lot of the big Star Wars films, Marvel films, all sorts of stuff. Or not Marvel, but some big stuff. And she didn't have a public email address, so I BCC'd info@ninagold.com, nina@ninagold.com, casting@ninagold.com, castins@ninagold.com. So just everything that it could be.
Just a pest, basically.
But all BCC'd.
So
she's not going to know I've sent it to 50 email addresses that aren't a real email address. But the one it gets through to, it'll get through. So I got this meeting, and we had this chat, and she was like, I think you'd be good for Game of Thrones, maybe for Star Wars, and maybe for Taboo. And I was like, never heard of that last one, but those first two sound great. And then I got cast in Taboo, and it's Tom Hardy and David Graham, written by Stephen Knight, who did Peaky Blinders, produced by Ridley Scott, and all that kind of thing. But in that meeting, I was like, fuck that one. I want to hear about Game of Thrones and Star Wars. And then that's the exact thing. It's like you never know that when it comes through.
Whereas like with this, Bilal was pitching guests, and I was like, fuck Scroobius Pip. I'm only interested in Dan the Sack.
Yeah, fair. Absolutely. He was on Twitch before me as well. He was on Twitch before me.
Is he still on there now?
He's not on there anymore, no. But he was the person who introduced me to Twitch, really.
Oh, it's a shame he doesn't do it.
He's the reason a lot of people think I thought I was too good for Twitch. So when I started streaming, I had at least 2 different people reach out. I think I did a Q&A or something on Instagram, and I had 2 different people going, when did you decide that Twitch wasn't below you or something? And I was like... What's going on? And the reason it was, I guested on Dan's Twitch a couple of times, which again, if I thought it was below me, I wouldn't have gone on. But it's confusing, right? Like if you don't
It's
know about
really
Twitch,
hard.
it's really odd.
Bilal
So I'm
tried
sitting
for
there.
ages to get me to do it. I was like, no, and then I
Yeah.
did it and I loved it, but only during lockdown. and then
OBS and all of that.
I'm sitting there and
Yeah,
he's got sound alerts coming up and stuff like that that are all really weird. And I'm like, I don't know what any of this is.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's explaining it to me. And I'm like, right, so it's kind of like you're a cam girl.
yeah.
And there's
Without
tips
taking
and
your
they call
clothes
this
off,
and
yeah.
was. And the problem was people assumed I meant that as an insult. I didn't. I'd paid and watched tons of cam girls over the years. I watch a lot of porn. I like porn. I think sex work is a valid job. I think it's a really good industry, a positive industry. It's gone into the power of the creators now. So, but in their mind, I was going, you're like a fucking cam girl. But that was the only thing I could relate it to because they are there and you can send tips and you can ask for it and do these different things.
Ask them to do.
And that's kind of
Listen to a
similar to
shell.
what that was the only relation I had to it. So yeah, but because I said that, I think people thought I was saying that in a fucking hell. I was like, no, that was me trying to figure out what the fuck this is.
No, I like cam girls.
Yeah, I liked them.
funny.
It was their assumption that I'm saying it as a negative, but genuinely at that point, my free cams at that point was one of my favourite porn sites. And you could tip. A lot of girls would have like a wheel you can spin, like to pick a song to put on, all sorts of stuff like that, which you do on Twitch. People would do that on
you
Twitch.
do that on
so
your Twitch.
I do.
it was
spin the
genuinely
wheel.
related. It was genuinely relatable. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was my
Cool.
introduction to Twitch. I've
Now-
gone off on so many
it's
tangents
good.
there.
It's good.
Sorry,
Now,
guys.
but like with your career, you've done so many different things, right? But the one thing that you seem to really love but haven't done, and I want to get to the bottom of why. Why haven't you done stand up yet? Because you
What's your
interview so
problem?
many comedians,
Yeah.
and you
think you're above
clearly
stand-up?
love.
Yeah, I think I'm
You
above
clearly
stand-up.
really understand it and love it because I've heard
Yeah.
that you interview so many of my peers and my friends
Yeah.
and things like that, and you're really on the money when you chat to them. So, how comes that's the one thing you seem to have not had a go at?
Mate, you're right. I adore it, and I think it's just been a feeling of not being qualified to do so.
Isn't spoken word gigs kind of similar?
Well,
So
that
can
was
be
it.
funny, right?
I did the Edinburgh Fringe 1 year. I did a
Yeah.
full run for 1 year. Brett Goldstein was a mate at that point. I was a big fan. He still is. I've said that as if we've fallen out. But he was one of the comedians I knew. It was Brett, Tim Key, and maybe Chris Ramsey. And Brett knew that I'm doing this hour-long set and I'm talking about self-harm, suicide, domestic abuse, all sorts of heavy stuff. I wasn't nervous about that at all. That's my bread and butter. I've been doing that. I've been doing that for years. The bit I was nervous about was I'd written jokes in between each piece. So I was linking this all together because I felt it needed to be a show. It shouldn't just be a gig. Every time I had, as said, a Chris or I remember Nick Helm being in the crowd, every time there was a comedian I knew in the crowd and they would laugh at one of my jokes, it meant so much more than the ticket sales, any reviews, anything like that. Because that was the bit, as you say, I'm such a nerd for that shit. So I'd really slaved over these essentially links. It's just a link between this song and this song that were gags. And yeah, that meant the world to me. But yeah, I guess I never saw it as a viable option. And again, you'll know as well, anyone who comes into stand-up with a career elsewhere, there's a lot of pressure on. Because it's like, who the fuck is this guy?
I think there is if you do. I think there is
bit,
if you do like if you go through like from the bottom and like do like open mic or you know, because then people have got a bit of a chip on their shoulder. But also, I think people are always going to be like that if they're not securing themselves. Like, I think a lot of people actually respect people doing that. But
it's tough.
Also, audience-wise, you do get a lot of leeway because people already know who you are and like you, so therefore they want you to do well. Do you know what I mean?
I just remember at the time when Gervais came out and started doing stand-up and was huge. I remember a lot of stand-ups being like, this guy isn't, this is, or kind of it's unfair because this guy hasn't done the years of work. And I loved those early ones. I mean, even more of a fan of his trans stuff. But, you know, again, I'm not so much of a fan anymore. But yeah, he was one that at that point I was like, this guy's brilliant, but I can see why a lot of comedians are like, fuck, you've just walked in and you're straight doing the DVD out now.
Yeah.
It
happens. I mean, Paddy McGuinness sold out a massive arena with a show that, I mean, it didn't make... Have you seen it?
No.
It's the one where he ends it with. Right, this is crucial that I get it right. The last joke,
Do it to camera.
the last bit in the special, I need to try and get it right. It's something like he says, "I know there's a lot of knife crime in the world right now, and there's a lot of problems, and I don't know how to solve all of that.
Mate,
But a bit of kindness can go a long way. Good night." I swear to God, that's how he ends the thing.
Wow.
That's it, right? Is that roughly it?
And right then you're like, no, some people can just walk into it and nail it.
Yeah,
This is
yeah, yeah.
amazing.
He
This
really
is, this
did. He
is
did.
perfect.
The big like
That's
Manchester
crazy.
arena, and he
That's
made. I think he
crazy.
made like £1 million or something.
Yeah.
And he filmed it as a special. You should watch it on stream.
Yeah.
Although a lot
100%
of
gonna have
our
to.
shared audience are familiar with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Roscoe watches it a lot on stream.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I'm going to have to. Yeah, that sounds
It's
amazing.
good stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. He's one.
So Bilal, as we've
Yes.
actually got like a very credible guest today,
Yes.
maybe our audience would especially like their problem solved.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So have you got one you want
We
to
have
pull
because
up?
last time we forgot to do our audience question, which is this is shambles.
And I don't even know what your problem is this week. I've kind of touched on mine, which is
Who cares about my problem?
I know, but I think
I care about
you've got to
Thank you.
don't ditch the format.
You're right. Don't ditch the format. So hold on. I got some on Twitter.
Do you want me to fill for a minute while you're doing this?
Yeah,
Just
please.
bumbling around. Have you ever had a guest on your podcast where they've left and you're like, the one question I wish I'd asked somebody was X, and then you didn't? So I feel like that's how I'm going to end this one.
No.
Like, when you're gone, I'm like, I should have asked about
I've
that.
had one where I almost didn't ask a question. I was really glad I did. And I've had one where I wish I hadn't asked a question. So
Yeah.
which one of them do you want first?
Let's go with the one you're glad you did first.
So Mary J. Blige, right? So
Right.
I'm doing it was when I first started doing kind of press junket ones. So she's promoting Umbrella Academy, so a Netflix TV show.
yeah.
And we're chatting, and I'd planned I had a question I wanted to ask if it was going well, because I was like, as soon as I asked this, I could get asked to leave by the PR people, all this kind of thing. And it was going quite well, but it was all very PR-y. It was all very talking about the show, talking about Netflix. And then we got onto hip hop a little bit. And I think it's, again, some people hate me for it on the podcast, but I think one of the ways to connect with your guest is to flex a little bit on your knowledge. So I'll try and get a relatable story, and I'll have some kind of thing that makes. And when we got onto hip hop, because I think she mentioned.
Did you say you introduced Bilal to the Roots?
Yeah. I was like, are you familiar with Bilal? No. I kind of like we got onto Biggie, and we got talking about how she gave him, I think, his first guest spot as a rapper, and she spoke beautifully on that. And then I asked the question I was really nervous to ask, particularly with the news that had happened at the time. I said, look, you also gave a first guest slot to R. Kelly, who's someone who's, at that point had just been exposed for doing loads of dark shit. And I was like, what? How do you feel about things like that? Because it is really weird that these positions of power. And she kind of first went, and again, I didn't want it to be, you've got to answer for R. Kelly, because she hasn't. She's Mary
Wasn't
fucking
like the
J.
Cook
Blige.
Report.
No, it wasn't. But it was like, I wanted to put it out there, and she first said, well, I don't really want to talk too much about that. But then she kind of came back and said, but what I will say is, with what we do, you do gain huge amounts of power, and it's down to the individual how they use that power. And she was kind of and said, like, I use that power to give Biggie his first break, to give this, to do this, to do this, to do this. Other people, abuse it. And yeah, it was just really amazing. I was like, my heart was racing as we were getting to that question. 'Cause I was like, I'm seeing PR people all around the room who are here to talk about a Netflix TV show. And I'm saying,
R. Kelly.
what about R. Kelly?
That's great, man.
So that was amazing. But then the one that didn't go well was
Here we go.
Spike Lee, and no commented me.
He's difficult though, isn't he?
We were getting on really well. He was lovely.
Yeah.
But it was the promo for Black Klansman, and that morning, Boots Riley had done a big post, and I gigged with Boots a few times over the years. He came to one of my spoken word gigs, it turned out. I didn't even know, but he was in London. He came to spoken word show. Boots Riley had just done a big post about how his family were part of the black activist group that's targeted in Black Klansman, and he felt it was so inaccurate to the truth that Spike Lee had been kind of not paid off, but pushed down that route to write it favourably towards the FBI, towards the police, towards this kind of thing.
Right.
So I was like, number one, that's just blown up online, and people are, he's calling them out on this. I was going to say I'm the first person to interview him since that happened. The guy who was in before me was Jonathan Ross, and I'm 90% sure he didn't bring it up.
Probably just invited him to his Halloween party.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, right, I've got to bring this up. And I've proper stumbled over the question a lot, because when you're a bit nervous and you over ask a question. So I was like, Boots Riley said this, blah, blah. I want to know your thoughts, and I want to say that I can see Boots' side, but I can see yours. So I was like, I'm over saying, look, I'm not having a go, but this. And he just he paused and looked at me and said, I've got nothing to say on that subject. And I was like, cool. So when you said did do the right thing, what do you think was the just fumbling for another question?
Yeah,
But that's not that bad.
And it wasn't him being, he wasn't bad at all. He was well in his right to not answer that, but I've never had someone literally say,
No, I'm not.
I've got no comment on that kind of thing. And I was like,
I'm gonna see if I can get one of them out of you
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah.
This.
I'm sure we can.
yeah.
How do you feel about R. Kelly?
A big fan. Ignition's my
You should
shit.
have said no comment.
More of a fan now. Let me
Yeah.
ask you something quickly.
I
before we do.
genuinely don't see nothing wrong with a little bump and grind. Come on, let's be reasonable.
I do want to know, like,
Beep beep.
I always feel with stand up for me, like, that's my main thing, and I feel like if I ever stopped, it'd be a really strange.
You never gig.
Constantly more than this one. It'd be a weird thing for me to stop, and obviously music was so massive for you. Do you do it at all now?
No, I stopped. I've got a bit of an. I think I've got a bit of an obsession with control creatively. I hopefully don't have in my personal life and things like that, but creatively I do, and I really like deciding when things end. To get heavy now, when I was on Brett Goldstein's podcast, he always has, oh, you've died. Like, how did you die? And you choose how you die. And I said, it's probably suicide. And he was like, yep, I would have guessed that. But the reason I've always said that is I like
Big
the
Hunter
idea.
S. Thompson fan.
Yeah, I like the idea. Like, I've never been depressed, suicidal, but I think I love the idea of going, cool, I'm really happy with how my life's gone. I'm gonna call it a day now. So I could see that in my 70s or whatever, going, wicked.
Walk off a cliff.
This is great. Exactly. Drive off a cliff, walk off a cliff, or do something like that. So that's been a thing with my career. So with the music, our third album, me and Dan signed a 3-album deal, and we signed it at the same time as, like, we were gigging a lot with Jack Peñate, Kate Nash, Paloma Faith, a load of other people, and so many of them, everyone would sign 3-album deals at the time, and because they all signed to majors, so many of them didn't get to do their 3 albums. And most of them have on independence at different times afterwards, but so many people didn't get to complete what they agreed to do because there's so much pressure if you're signed to a major. So when me and Dan completed our 3 albums, and our 3rd album was our biggest commercial, our biggest critical response and crowd response and all that, our tour was our biggest tour. I was like, this is a really nice point to draw a line under it. And at that point, we'd toured solidly for 10 years.
He was all right with that.
I was more all right with it than he was, but he was all right. Like, he understood, he got it. He wanted to do more. He then did an amazing solo album, and he did his own tours and stuff. And still makes. He just did the soundtrack for the new Tron computer game.
All right.
So it's literally, is it Vangelis did the original, then it was Daft Punk, now it's Dan Lasac. He's literally in this insane lineage of people who've done the official
That's amazing, man.
Tron soundtrack. So yeah, it was that beautiful thing. And then I did the same with my club night. I had a club night in London. We did that for 10 years, and then it was starting.
Where did you do that?
At the book club.
Near Old Street.
Yeah. I knew you'd know.
I live around the corner.
It's both of us.
Don't
look
throw
as if we're there all
stones.
the time. Exactly. I was going to bring myself into that then. To be clear. But yeah, so we did that for 10 years, and it started to feel like it was getting too Essex, and it was feeling like it wasn't what we'd made it, kind of thing. So we drew a line under that. And as I said, like with XFM, after a year, I had this award thing, and then I was like, cool, I don't know if I'm going to get this any better. I feel this year's worth of episodes have been the best I can do. I don't think I'm going to improve on them, so I'll draw a line under that.
Well, it's exhausting as well, isn't it? Like doing a weekly or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how often
doing
your show
the
was,
same
but
thing for
I
long,
mean,
yeah.
and it's amazing you've managed to keep it up for so long with the podcast.
Yeah.
But
that's really interesting because not a lot of people would do that.
I
Like,
think
that's
it's-
like me. Like my first Edinburgh show I had went like perfectly, pretty
You
much.
should have called it a day, mate.
Yeah, I should have, right? Then I
It's
went
had a lot of
with
reviews that have said that.
Yeah, should have called it a day.
But I guess it's like I think the reason why, like, my man's an electrician. I used to work for him, and it'd be like, and I was doing that simultaneously with starting stand up. It's like, oh, you've got to get a cable from there to there, and then you can go home, basically, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you feel like you've achieved something. So you've got that,
Yeah.
you've installed that there, and that you can see it, it's done. Or like, I like cooking because you start with these ingredients, then you end up with a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas what we all do creatively, there is no finish line. There is no scripts are forever in development. And so you're actually, you've taken the power, it seems like really interesting to go, right, well, I've achieved that, so now I'm going to stop doing that. And that's like a mad concept.
It's really good, and I don't think enough people do it. Like everyone, most of the bands, most of the people in this room are into, your favourite album is probably their earlier ones. And then they stick around, and there's a few that they're all right, but it's like, but it's not because they've got worse. It's just because that was the one you connected with.
Yeah.
And then,
well,
you know,
interestingly enough, like I went to see one of those Blur gigs at Wembley Stadium the other day, and I think the reason that they're still so big is because they said they didn't even say, but they stopped for basically 8 years, and then they brought an album out, and then they stopped for like nearly another 8 years. And it's like, so maybe actually that is the key to being quite big as well, is to just like bring it back every now and again for a little bit, but not not continuously keep doing it.
Don't overdo it. You have it with like big American comedians as well, where they do too many specials in a short time. I think it should be a rare thing. I think.
Or the Libertines are always an example I give. So I think they're good band, but when they stopped making music, they weren't big enough to headline Reading Festival. When they came back, they were big enough to headline Reading Festival from not doing anything for X amount of time. It's like that shows the difference. If they'd kept releasing albums, they wouldn't have got big enough to. But it's because there was that gap, and that was their comeback. They were suddenly.
Dan's on the phone going, Glastonbury, come on, let's do it.
Come on, let's have it.
Is it emotional for you when you end a thing? I guess in particular the music, because the amount of work that would have gone into it.
It's emotional, but it's beautiful. Like again, another reason I think I'd struggle to ever come back to music is our last gig. We knew it was our last gig. The crowd knew it was our last gig as we announced. So we played at Festival. We had about 10,000 people in the crowd. They all were singing along. They all knew it was our last gig. Like my mum and dad were in the crowd. Rob the Bank, who signed us to his label, you know, it's his festival.
It's not his real name.
And all these like people, just everything there was so perfect. It's like, well, now if I accept a well-paid gig to do Freshers Week in Leeds, that might end up being my last gig. And at the moment, my last gig is this fucking perfect thing. Yeah. If I do another one, that's no longer it anymore.
If Wembley say we're still trying to make the money back on the building,
they do Live Aid.
Wembley's one of my worst gigs. I played Wembley Arena, I guess. But it was supporting Frank Turner. And I didn't have the experience of stadiums. Like the gap, the lack of connection with the crowd is mad. Like I buzz off. Like we did loads of early support tours, and I love that support feeling of having to win people over. Like festival gigs and stuff like that, where you know they're not already on board and you have to proper work for it. But the photos of us playing Wembley are some of my favourite photos. But I know I came off stage going,
I hate that.
Oh, that was weird.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't really feel the buzz I was expecting to feel.
It's like, have you been to see stand up in an arena?
No.
That's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Can't imagine
You're watching them on the big screen. Yeah.
And I know who you just had on the podcast, who's been on here, and one of my mates, Lloyd. Really interesting. Yeah, exactly, on the podcast.
Yeah, of course we did, yeah.
Should we do some problems?
Oh, yeah, listener's problem.
Yeah. You see, you ask me anything and I'll go off on a
that's
10-minute round. That's why I'm a podcaster.
But actually, what happened was that gave Bilal like 15 minutes to find the problem. And he still couldn't find it when we just asked him for it. So, absolute classic.
Okay, we got one here, which is from Reese, which says, I'm moving in with my partner soon and we have quite different sleeping schedules. She enjoys a long lie-in, but I like getting up early. How can we make this work?
it's not for me to answer.
I have that issue with my wife. Actually, she gets up very early. Obviously, I'm up.
You're a
twitching,
slob. You're
I'm
twitching.
gigging. I'm a slob. So
Why do people think that they need to get up at the same time as each other? Like, what's he getting up and doing? Like, if you're getting up early and doing like noisy stuff, then yeah, it's a problem. Otherwise, you're finding a problem where there isn't one, right?
my wife blow dries her hair in the morning very early. It's very upsetting.
Fuck yeah, that's a problem.
It's really upsetting.
Yeah, you've got a real bugbear about it. You've talked about this on the podcast a number of times.
Yeah. It's really.
I think
upsets me.
divorce her.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite quickly.
Okay.
Skinhead?
What?
Shave her head.
Maybe.
Oh
Shave
right.
her.
Yes.
While she's sleeping.
I thought you said hire
when she
some
goes to bed early, shave her
Hire
head.
some skinheads. Get some
threatener.
skinheads to
Yeah.
get in line.
I think Reese could really be using this to earn some bonus points. He's the one who gets up early, right?
Yeah.
Get the breakfast going.
Mate, I used to do that. My last relationship, I had a similar thing. My partner lived in Margate. I'd wake up early, and I'd stroll down the shop. I'd get some coffees. I'd get some pastries.
Yeah.
One of the
Still
problems.
two left.
If we get round to doing a problem, I was thinking about what my problem might be, and it is that coming to London more recently has made me realise how shit the pastry options are out in Essex.
Yeah.
In London, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Like every corner you go,
You got
past,
everything
there's
in
just
London, though.
insane pastries.
Yeah.
You've not got them anywhere else.
And that's your issue, the pastries.
But yeah. That's the main appeal of London
Got
for
to move
me.
to London.
Yeah, for the pastries. But maybe that's I'll be healthier if I stay away.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So
What are the food options like where you are, like takeaways and things? Are they all right?
I don't know if this is helping that guy too much.
No, well,
Oh yeah.
I think we just told him to cook her a breakfast, didn't it?
Completely forgot. Reese.
Yeah,
you
just
gotta
get up
break
and do
up.
stuff. Yeah, do some stuff. Do some nice
Hire
things in
a
the
skinhead.
morning. Or get into a series that you're not both into.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
that can be your time of watching, because
Yeah.
that's one of the hardest things in a relationship, I think, is if you're into something that your partner isn't into, finding that moment to get it watched, to do it, even if it is Twitch or whatever else, it's finding those things to go, we don't connect on this, but they're important to both of us. So
It's weird. Like for me now, it's like if I get in really late and I need a lie-in, my wife will get up at like 9. And then I've got to be up soon after, and just because she's bored, and it is hard, but it's just that's what you have to do for love, Reese.
That's what you have to do for love.
come
You have
on,
to
Reese.
do it for love, Reese.
But yeah, I think
mate.
it's either you earn brownie points or you take up your own
do
interests.
stuff, yeah.
Sorry, I kicked you earlier, by the way.
No, it's all right.
What's your problem?
I told you about I was
Oh.
really fascinated by your level of creativity that I wanted to be like, what's the secret sauce?
Yeah,
So
I
that's
guess
fine.
that's good. I mean,
Yeah.
we're both quite interested. I want to do the filmmaking stuff as well one day, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna pester you about that.
Really,
for years.
on the script writing front,
Yeah.
really simple thing is just fucking do it, because I put it off for too long. I spent ages going, I don't know how to, and all of this. But if you've had any acting gigs, you've read scripts, you know the rough structure. It doesn't have to be perfect first time, but yeah, as soon as I wrote my first script, it was a TV show, and I wrote it, I sent it off to Warp. Within a week, they optioned it, and I was like, so I've been putting this off for like 2 years. It didn't get made in the end, and all this, it went
But
into
still,
development, but I'd been
yeah.
putting it off for 2 years, and I was like, right. And genuinely, it was exactly that. It was like, I want to get into this, but I need to talk to someone. I need to get advice on this or advice on that. And then at some point, I just went, type away, and
I think you always
do
find
that,
little
man.
excuses
Just
to
do
not
it.
do it, and it's like,
Absolutely.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should probably speak to them first. I should probably read
yeah.
this first.
Well, just more specific, like, do you figure out the whole idea first, or can you have a bit of an idea?
Often I'll have the general the general idea. So I'll have I saw, who was it talking about this recently? I think it might have been Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who was like, have the ending, and then get as far away from that as you can.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's fine.
So if you've got this, and I work in scenes a lot, because I think because of the writing music and stuff like that, where I would always kind of tell these mini stories. So I'll often have this handful of scenes, and I'm like, right now, how do they all
connect?
How do they connect and come together? And I think you write the bits that you don't have to start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like if you've got a bit that you're really excited, if you've got like I've got this amazing ending to a film, write that. It'll make you fired up. It's going to be fun to write,
What
and then
program
work
do you
back
use?
to it. I use Final Cut.
Yeah, that's the one. No,
For writing.
Yeah,
No,
no,
isn't that
not
editing?
not,
No,
not
you-
Final
Final
Cut.
Draft. Isn't that
What
what
one
it's
do
called?
I
Celltex?
use?
I use Celltex.
I use Celtex.
No, I
That's
don't
the
use
free one.
Celltex.
That's the free one.
Final Cut is for my editing. You're right.
Yeah.
What's the?
Isn't it Final Draft? Is it Final Draft?
I don't think I use
Final Draft.
Final Draft.
This
though.
What
episode
else
is
is
sponsored
there?
by Final
Is there
Draft.
another one? There's not that many.
I don't know.
You have to pay for Final Draft. and it's-
Fade
Fade.
in. I use Fade in.
I'm going to use that because
Is that wrong?
I
you're
use
gonna
it because
use
my
Well, it
mate
depends if
Kelly
I've got
uses
pa-
it, and she's been
Kelly,
like
right.
Oscar nominated for her scripts and
Have I
stuff.
got,
So I was like,
okay,
I'll
we
use
should-
Fade in then.
Wait,
Yeah,
have I
we
got to
should
pay, have I
use
got to pay
Fade
for
in.
it?
Yeah, it's a one-off fee.
How much?
I can't remember.
How
If
much
you'd
have
like
you
to
got?
sponsor the podcast with a one-off fee of $69.99,
We'll put our money together again. Share
we'll have
a
the same
laptop.
login.
Yeah, you can share a login. I think you can.
Yeah, but no. What I had. Oh,
It's
I don't
gone.
know. It's gone. Carry on.
What do you think of Mussolini? No, sorry. That was from last
That's
episode.
from last week's episode.
So we done our listeners' problem. And
What
all
was
of
your
that.
problem?
My one was I kind of want like a I want to do like a 5-year plan
Mhm.
of life. Do you
Yeah.
do that kind of thing ever?
No,
not at all.
I'm someone who, when you look back at my career, it looks really well planned out. And as you say, you've switched all these jobs and all things like this, and it's rarely that planned at all. It's just
Okay.
kind of, I always look at what I'm excited. I try and do the shit that I'm excited to do. Like, it's gonna sound dumb, but that's how I got into fitness as well, because I think everyone talks about discipline. It's like, no, you need to find exercise that you enjoy
Yeah,
and are
right.
excited to do, rather than
Badminton.
it's discipline.
What is the one that you enjoy?
I'm a CrossFit wanker. So I've got my
Oh.
kettlebells and
Yeah.
I've got all this kind of thing, and I just, was it yesterday morning or no, a Saturday morning? I was like, right, I'm just gonna, in my garden, I set up. I had my Bulgarian bag, a steel mace, and a couple of kettlebells, and I did this kind of thing where I'm working through the stations, and it all feels like you feel like a fucking Viking,
That's
because
cool.
you're just throwing
Yeah,
things
right.
around and
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
all
yeah.
this, and it's like, yeah, I think people talk about discipline all the time, but I think some people aren't disciplined. I also think if you're relying only on the discipline, you might have a miserable life. I think the idea of everything
It's
being
like
about
being
discipline,
managed by Antonio Conte.
Mm.
Just discipline.
yeah, exactly, or the idea of everything being about discipline, I think, did come in kind of the 80s with the Tories trying to get working class people to work harder for no
good,
more money.
Good.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think you can just go, well, what excites me and what, you know, is fun to do. So that's, again, it's why I've jumped ship on, like, you asked about how hard was it to walk away from music. I loved every gig I did, but I think I was just getting to the point of getting tired of it.
Mm.
And
We
it
didn't
was,
love
and
the
it was
Wembley
going to
one,
become
so
a job.
Don't
No,
lie,
the
because
Wembley one.
we will check.
I did have a great time because Billy Bragg was on after us, and
Oh,
he's
right.
one of my favourites. So I
Yeah,
loved
yeah.
it as a night. And then I went and DJ'd at my club night and did my
Mm.
best DJ set ever, because I think I was brimming with confidence.
Mm.
Because I just played Wembley. I thought I was
Yeah.
the shit. And it turns out with DJing, confidence is a lot. So I went in there, did the best DJ set I've ever done, because I was just like, yeah, just had to leave Wembley early to come and DJ. Sorry,
that's
lads.
fun. I did want to ask a
Um,
more specific. Have you got to go?
No,
You're
I'm right for number
Okay.
10.
Sorry, we're going all over the place.
No,
with
let's
this, but
fucking go.
Um,
I've
you
got
said-
a problem I want to ask as well
Yeah,
before
great.
we,
Oh, okay,
we round
great.
up. So go ahead.
You said you didn't, in terms of like what sort of acting jobs you wanted, and it didn't exist or whatever. But if you could, like, is there a type of thing you want to be? Like, I would love to be a detective on a
Yeah.
TV
No,
show,
you haven't
right?
got that in you.
Of course I do.
Being a detective would be
Yeah.
amazing. I did a thing
Yeah,
called
of course.
Debris, where I was like a bad guy, and it was a bit
That's fun.
like I had a military background and all that.
Great.
And my acting teacher, one of the best things he said was always to take your characters out for a walk, which sounds
Oh.
ridiculous, but I'd put together a playlist, and I was in Canada filming during the pandemic, so I was proper isolated in my Airbnb, and I made a playlist for my character, and I just would pop my headphones on and go for a walk, and I swear at points I was like, I'm staring people down as if I've got a military background, and I'm forgetting that this is a character, and I'm going to get the shit kicked out of me because I'm walking through areas where there's some rough people, and I was proper trying to stand more upright, head held more high than I normally would, and proper being in character as I go for a walk. And genuinely, I thought it was almost going to get me in trouble a couple of times, because when you are in those dodger areas at night, there will be people who'll intimidate you. And normally I'll just be like, head down, go in the other direction. But I was like, proper staring back at them, and I'm like, oh, hang on, I can't actually just use all my military knowledge and beat them up, because
I'm got
it's
it.
a character.
What would you be?
Oh, well, I mean, you already gave me my dream role. I'd really love to be like a murderer in a, like we did a like funny kind of send up of that. But
I've seen the serial killer interviews. They're amazing. But yeah, I think that's got to be a dream as well, right? I completely see that, just playing an unhinged killer.
Yeah, villains generally must be quite a fun thing to do. Yeah,
I'm a comic book nerd as well, and there's a group called the Authority in DC, and there's a character called Midnighter who's always been my dream character to play. His brain is basically a supercomputer, so his fighting thing is he will in a split second he'll compute everything they could do. So he will have a counter for them. So it's this mad decision making, and in all situations he can do that. So it's just he's this tough guy. But the thing that was amazing about him when his character came out was I would say, aggressively gay. Like, so much of the book is about him just wanting to fuck constantly. And then he happens to be doing this superhero stuff too. But he's got this other thing.
In the back of his mind, he's thinking about.
Well, that's it. He's got this tech thing where he's got these doors where he can teleport anywhere. He mainly uses that for booty calls. And again, I was like, this character's fucking amazing. He's this badass. He's all in black.
Has he been around for a while?
Yeah, he's been around a fair while. He's just not really. He's really critically acclaimed as a character, because it did just push so many boundaries and that. But he's not been on the big screen yet.
I can
that's
understand.
been the one that I'm like, I want to play Midnighter.
Yeah, I can understand why the guy wouldn't look up from his laptop when you pitched that to him.
Yeah, exactly. Let me tell you about Midnighter. But yeah, I guarantee now James Gunn is at DC. I bet they're going to do something with that character, because he's such a good character for now as well. He's so
Can I ask one more thing about acting?
I want to ask one thing about acting, and then we'll do your problem.
Okay,
let's do it.
Is there anything you wouldn't do? Full frontal nudity?
With everything, genuinely, it's if it was the right role. Like, people ask me all the time, would you shave your beard off? I've pitched my beard being shaved off for 2 different roles because I thought it'd be good for the character.
When were you last clean shaved?
2005.
Wow.
In lockdown I tried to grow a beard like yours, but it only went from my neck. And I look like a Mormon, and I can't grow anything there, and it's a real shame.
It's tough.
Because I would love that beard.
Again, on the serial killer thing, there's been a few, like I was playing a guy who was like in prison, and I wanted to go all stubble and just have a big psycho moustache. No one's up for it. But yeah, genuinely, I touched upon earlier, like, my favourite director is Gaspar Noé, and he's done so many fucked up weird films. If Gaspar asked me to do anything, I'd do it in a heartbeat. For a film.
Yeah, not just
like,
can you come and wash my car?
Not just socially. I'd probably do that, to be honest. It's fucking cool. But yeah, I'd do anything if it was the right role. But I have had roles where they've asked to shave my beard off, and I've said no, because it's not been the right role. Like, I had a BBC thing recently where I'm literally in it for a split second, and I'm in the background, and they were like, we want to give you like a scarred up face. I'm like, all over that. I'll come in as early as you want. We'll do all of this. So I had like 4 hours of prosthetics on the 2 days I'm filming. Yeah. And they wanted it to come down here, and they were like, is it all right we shave a square out of your beard? And I was like,
not for that. Yeah.
Nah.
A square out of it as well?
Nah. And when I said no, she said, yeah, I was chancing my luck a bit there. We'll put like a bald cap on it. So they kind of glued it down and put a bald cap on, and it looked amazing, but it was like, that illustrates it has to be the right thing. You know, the fact that I've pitched it in one situation and said no in another situation, it's
that's fair.
With acting, the one thing I struggle with is auditions. I feel like I always fuck them up. You obviously must have a talent for them, because you've gone from doing nothing to a lot of acting. So do you think that's because of, like you said, the way that you've kind of gone around the other way and you've been clever about it, like getting in touch with the casting director or whatever? Or do you have like any tried and tested things that help you nail auditions?
I will tell you the key for me for auditions is fucking assume you've not got the role. That is the one time you're going to get to play that role. Like in that room or on that self-tape.
right.
You're never going to get to play this character again. And it's a buzz. Like I'm buzzing over all auditions because I'm like, fuck, I'm getting
that's
like,
such a
audition
good way
for the
to look at
boys.
it.
I've done a load of different, like I've auditioned for some huge things that I thought probably not going to get this. Like I auditioned to be Billy the Butcher in the boys. Obviously didn't get it. It went to fucking icon of film. But the boys is my favourite comic book. So I was like, not caring about getting it. It's like, I'm not going to get it. I'm not qualified. But how fucking mad that I get to be that for this afternoon or whatever, this afternoon of prep and then this tape. So yeah, my thing on that is just be aware. Again, I guess because I didn't go to drama school or any of these things as well,
neither.
I've not got to do any of that. So it's a buzz to go, cool.
It is hard to get a buzz for playing the guy who's got psoriasis in an advert, though.
Yeah, that's exactly one. But if it's anything you can get excited about, you've got the role in this self-tape, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
you've got that role.
That's
You've
cool.
got that role, and you get to play that in this moment, and then you move on. But there's loads of stuff that I've auditioned for that's been fucking buzz, and I've not got it. I'm 99% of the time I'm good at accepting I've probably not got it and moving on. There's one or two where I'll be like,
Yeah.
haven't heard back on this. What's going on? Have I got it or not? But yeah, 90% of the time it's like,
That's
man,
such a good way to
how
look
cool
at it.
was that we got to... It's normally me and my dad. Like my dad reads with me on my self-tapes.
Oh, nice.
And I've had to rein him in a few times because he'll think he's auditioning.
Yeah.
Like it'll be one where I've got an American accent or whatever, and he'll start doing American accent. I'm like, no, it's good. It's good. It's only me
really
auditioning,
funny.
Dad. But yeah,
I auditioned for the Barbie movie, quite a good little part, and obviously didn't get it, and I was gutted about it. Have you got one you can say that you? Oh no, you said one already.
Yeah.
didn't
Or
you?
no. There's two. So I auditioned for Deadpool 2. The role weren't that great in the end, but I loved the first Deadpool. I love
just
all
to
of
be
them.
part of something like
But
that.
the one that really hit me was the Northman. So I'd had the director on the podcast, and he did like The Witch and The Lighthouse.
Oh
and
God, I love
Lighthouse.
those films.
Yeah, and when like everything he'd made up to that point was just a work of art, in my opinion. And I had him on the podcast to talk about it, and I jokingly said at the end, I say this with anyone I'm a fan of, at the end I jokingly said, like, you know, if you ever need anyone for a role, and he was like, well, actually, the next thing I'm doing is big bearded guys. It's a Viking thing. So he was like, you might do. So I was like, sweet. So yeah, I ended up getting an audition. And the audition went well, and I got a call back to have an audition with the director. And I was like, you're right. And he was like, oh, nice to meet you. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't get this because of the podcast. I thought I'd got the audition because of the podcast. He'd forgotten about me completely. I was like, oh, we met. I had to be like, oh no, we've met. This. So that was a rare moment where...
But I guess that would have put you on the back foot. 'Cause it's like, well, I spent like an hour with you. You don't remember me.
No,
You'd be a bit like, oh, no.
I dug it. I was like, I thought I'd got a call back because of familiarity. Do you know what I mean? He's like, oh, that's that guy. But it was purely because of the performance. So instantly in that moment, I've reframed it to go, this is a compliment, rather than you've forgotten me. And that audition went well. And then they hit me up saying that they wanted to cast me, but the production had decided they had to go local because it was shooting in Scandinavia. So all of those roles went local rather than international. So I didn't get that, and that was heartbreaking. And I'd regularly kind of check the IMDb to see when it's out and what's happening. And weirdly, when I was in isolation in Canada doing this show where I was a villain, I checked the IMDb and they just added Bjork to the cast.
Yeah.
And I was fucking heartbroken. I was like,
Yeah.
not only was this a dream role with a dream director, the character was amazing, all of this, you've just added one of my favourite musicians of all time in like her second ever role. Her first role got her at least Oscar nominated, if not one. But yeah, she's like her second ever role. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
So
Was it
that
Dancer
was one.
in the Dark? Was that?
Yeah, Dancer in the Dark.
Sorry,
Amazing.
Not to get too sidetracked.
So that was one that broke my fucking heart. I was like, oh, so close.
I'm really heartbroken about the psoriasis advert.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm sorry you got that, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry I got that part. Yeah. So, what is your problem that you've brought in?
This is a real problem, right? And I don't know how familiar are you guys with flies? Do you know much about flies? Yeah.
Seen them?
As in, like, in your home? Well, in summer months, if I got the windows open, they come in and they like stay
Yeah.
in, and I call them the dusk boys because at dusk they tend to fuck off.
I
Wow.
like it.
But
Well, so here's the thing, right? I don't have a lot of windows or doors open in my house because I get quite bad hay fever.
Right,
So I
yeah,
basically
same.
live in an airlock, right? Saturday night, I had some mates over. We watched the UFC. Then we stayed up late watching David Earl in a GTA RP server. It was amazing. And I don't know if this is related, but in the morning, my mate Chris got up and did the stinkingest shit I've ever smelt. I don't think it is related. I don't
Right.
think it's related, but I'm putting it there just so you got all the information. So I wake up, everyone leaves, and then I'm downstairs. Again, it was a big Twitch day, weirdly. A mate of mine, Big Taff Man, was doing a 16-hour charity stream. So I was watching a lot of that, and then I went upstairs, and at my window, which is closed on like the landing of my house, there was 8 flies. And I was like, that's weird. Like, that's a lot of flies. So I kind of opened the window, I get them out, and I thought, I'm going to have a look around. I look in the window in the spare room. I'm very wealthy. In the spare room, and there's like 3 flies. And I'm like, right, that's weird. I get them out. But at that point, I was like, that's weird, but is what it is. Continue on with my dad. Go back an hour later. There's 8 more flies at the window.
Same window.
Same window.
Well, you found
don't
the
know if it
original
was the
8.
same flies.
No,
I
right,
didn't,
okay, yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't think to ask their names the first time. But so I got rid of them 8, and I'm looking everywhere. There's no food rotting or food in the house in general exposed.
You don't
I
have any
can't find.
pets?
I don't have pets. I was looking around to see if there's like a mouse has crawled somewhere and died or something. Can't find anything. And this was yesterday, so it's as yet unsolved. Like, I don't know if the flies are going to come back again, but so it was 8, then 3, and then 8. So that's 19 flies.
No food in the bin.
No.
And
the bins are all quite closed.
Okay.
Like, I've not got kind of open
any
overflow bins.
today that you noticed before you came out?
Not that I noticed today, no. But I'm heading back, and they might be there.
Now, I think your friend is a bit of a red herring in some respects, but
I
I
just
think
wanted all the
I think-
information.
yeah. But I think like the fact that your friends were there and now they're not. I think that could be.
Do you think my friends are flies? Is this what we're saying here?
I think because if they've stayed, they've either had the windows open while they've been sleeping or whatever.
Were your
which you
friends
probably
gone
don't.
when the flies?
Because
were
your
there?
friends stayed over.
My friends, they stayed over. They left. I would say the only time anything was open was as I was saying goodbye to them, and there wasn't like a big group of flies who rushed past me at the time. I was at the
Yeah,
door.
we're in.
He's open. But yeah, it's the fact that I got them out and there weren't any anywhere, and then within an hour there was a load more. So they must be coming from somewhere, right, or getting in from somewhere.
Yeah, that's really
there could
weird.
be something going on outside somewhere.
Yeah.
And then
really
if your
weird.
friends have had the windows open in the night or whatever, early morning they've probably come in because they come in to escape
Again,
the
it
heat.
sounds
I think.
confident, but I don't think they had any windows open just because it wasn't that hot a night. A Saturday night was quite rainy and cool. So, and we all went to bed quite late and then got up quite early. It'd be weird if they got up in the
And it's
night
a lot
and
of
started
flies,
opening
isn't it?
windows. It's a lot. If
mean-
it was 2 or 3, I'd be like, oh, I live in an oldish house.
Yeah.
Creatures get in every now and then. It is what it is. But
Yeah,
it's a lot of flies in like within an hour or two.
So.
Oh, hang on.
Were being
Excessive-
born in the house.
That's what I'm
maybe.
guessing.
That's what it
Excessive
feels like.
warmth
Excessive warmth.
is a breeding ground for flies, and if you're not keeping your windows open, maybe
Maybe there's
your house is
excessive
hot.
warmth in
But
the
that's
house.
weird. It's
I dunno.
that's
Like it's been hotter.
confusing.
Like
Yeah.
That was number
this
3 on the
year
top
has been
4
a very
reasons.
hot year, and I've not
for
had
flies.
all these flies.
What's the number 1 reason?
Rotting matter.
You got rotting matter in your bedroom?
They reproduce very
not done
quickly,
all.
apparently, flies. So if you'd have got 2 and they're
Could've
having a
been
hot night,
fucking- yeah.
and if you had your friends coming in and out, only 2 need to get in, and then you've got.
Yeah, that could be it.
Well, I think I don't want to cop out on this, but I think we need to just like check in with you in a week
Yeah, I'll
and
keep you
see
posted
if they're
on
still
that.
coming. Then I'm going to look into this further.
I did get I did put a load of Syncum blocker down the drains just because I thought,
good
well, maybe
stuff,
there's a
innit?
drain type thing that they're coming up through, because I couldn't see anywhere they've come from. I thought maybe they're coming up through the drains. Maybe there's
Okay.
something
I've got something
going
here.
down there.
I've got something here.
Big up.
There we go.
When the weather is exceptionally warm
Mm.
inside, but not outside because of wet weather, they tend to try and come inside. And when the temperature reaches
Interesting.
32 degrees, eggs can hatch 2.5 times
Ugh.
faster or less in less than 8 hours.
So we were probably laughing so much at David Earl playing Brian Gittins in
Oh,
GTA
that's it. Flies,
servers that
like
heated
all of us, love David
heated
Earl.
heated the room up, got everything a bit hot. It's raining outside, and they came in to watch David Earl.
Yeah, they came in
guess.
to watch David Earl.
That's a miracle.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Well, that's a beautiful story.
There you go.
And we wish you all the best.
Thanks, guys. Solved.
Now, like you, so when you have somebody on your podcast that you like, you say, put us in something. Come on our podcast. Oh, he's already on it.
Yeah, I'm already.
What can we
That's
get?
what's going on now.
No, we want to be in your film. That's the
Oh,
come
yeah.
on, mate.
Okay.
All right.
Well, the only roles that are available at the moment
Yeah.
are a load of homeless guys. So
Yeah, we could do
Great.
yeah, I was going to say,
Hmm.
it's imaginable.
I mean, my
So we'll
beard
see what
would
we
look
can do.
very good homeless beard.
that. Yeah.
We'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Okay.
Keep it in mind.
Can I be called Trevor?
Unnamed, uncredited.
Yeah, fine.
Unpaid.
Yeah. Hobo too. Oh, can I just? One other question I really wanted to ask you because you work so hard and you're always doing stuff. I guess the answer you've kind of uncovered is Twitch, maybe. But like, how do you relax? Like, what do you do in your downtime?
Now, that's what I was going to say. Is it's a bit of a myth how hard I work. Like in recent years, in particular, I've really started to prioritise downtime. Gaming became a big part of that because whenever you're in the creative, or whenever your job is your passion, it's really hard to switch off. Right, so FIFA was a big one for me. I'd get FIFA and I'd pop a podcast on because it means I can't be looking at my phone.
in the Champions League.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but yeah, in recent years, there's a guy, Rutger Bregman, who came on my podcast. He's got an amazing book called Utopia for Realists, and he talks a bit in there about how in this up until like this late 70s, we as a society prioritised leisure a lot more. Like there was big pushing for a 3-day weekend. The big aim was to get us to a 3-day weekend. And then the 80s happened and it all became, well, we work harder. We work harder and harder. So I do rest a lot. I watch a lot of stuff. Cinema is a massive one for me.
Yeah.
I go and see a good few films in the cinema every month. I watch a load at home. I watch, as we've said, Twitch can be one for just absorbing so much of your time. It's all creative stuff. And then it's a bonus because that then inspires you and gives you ideas and makes you go, oh shit, I'd love to do that. I'm watching series 2 of The Bear at the moment. And it's one of the most perfect TV shows I've ever seen. It's astounding.
What's that on?
It's on Disney Plus.
Oh, I've got that. I might start watching that.
It's really good. It's about a chef in Chicago, and it's one of those shows where you probably won't know any of the actors going in, so you forget they're actors to a point because it's so good. It's honestly, it's amazing. There's a few episodes in series 1 that did this, but there's the one I watched Saturday of series 2. I just finished it, and I was so excited that film and TV and acting and writing and directing all exist because they'd made this thing, and then I had the thing of, oh shit, I'm kind of associated to that world. I'm not there yet, but I'm kind of part of that, and it was just the most. I went for a walk afterwards just to kind of go, fuck. This is amazing. On my way out, a load of flies were everywhere. But I can't remember all about that. And then I got back from the walk. But watching stuff, I guess.
One quick thing I do want to say about downtime. I've been watching this thing and I can't stop watching it on YouTube. It's this guy called Stobe the Hobo. Have you heard about this guy? And basically, he's dead now. But there's like hundreds of hours of like stuff where he filmed himself traveling across America. Basically, he had a shit job, hated it, like door-to-door salesman, and was like, I'm just going to travel across America on freight trains illegally and like sleep under bridges, and just did it for like years and years. And actually, amazing. I think he got killed by getting run over by a train accidentally. Right. But it's so good because it's like he's just done it on his own. It wasn't really about like getting viewers, and it's just like something you would never do, and you're like, is he going to get on that train? And he's like trying to work it out. He's like, I'm stuck in this town that no one would ever visit for 8 hours because that's where the train stopped.
Yeah.
And I'm like so addicted to it now.
I love finding stuff like that, right? There is just this obscure thing, and then there's just loads of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And if you are new to the podcast because Scroobius Pip's here and we've got a lot of
Oh,
eyes on
yeah.
it, maybe you stumbled across something obscure called Got a Problem, Mate. So please tell your friends, like, rate and subscribe because we want to keep doing this.
Also, if you are here because of our guest, then why not listen to another one of these and not just leave?
Yeah. Or listen, if for some reason you haven't heard of Scroobius Pip but you know our podcast,
Oh, no,
then
that's
go
not-
and check out Distraction
that doesn't
Pieces.
exist.
Oh.
I mean, I would add to the listeners, to be clear, I asked to come on this podcast.
Did you?
So that's why, I was in your chat and I was like, why haven't you invited me on yet?
That's not
So-
how Bilal
so that's
sold
a
this to me.
sign
He was
of-
like, I've got us a huge guest. I
That's
was
a
like,
seal of
amazing.
approval.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, thank.
Keep
Well,
watching.
like I was genuinely so over the moon he was coming on. So thanks so much for
it's
doing
been
this.
a delight, guys. Thank
Yeah.
you
Thank
very
you, and
much.
enjoy the museum.
Yeah.
Oh, which museum?
I'm going to the Hunterium
What's that?
Museum. Have you been there before?
No.
It's so good. It's like my favourite little hidden gem in London. It's
Wait, is it
It's-
the one in Holborn?
it's around the back there. It's all like
Yeah,
dead
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
basically. It's from
Was it
the
was he an architect
1700s
or something?
onwards.
And he turned his house into a museum, and he got like stuff like lifted in.
Yeah, he's got all this stuff in
Yeah, I've been there.
jars
I've been there,
essentially,
yeah.
and it's like such a mad. It's part of one of the big medical colleges.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it is
that's
this
right, yeah,
big,
yeah.
like it's all medical and scientific, but it's just this amazing collection of weird shit from over the years. It's like one of those curiosity shops.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
go in, except it's the best in the world, and
Oh.
it's all just it's really
I
good.
totally
Cool.
forgot about that place. I'm gonna tell my
great, isn't it?
girlfriend. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's a date you've sorted out
No
for me as well.
problem.
That's it. I mean, we could do this forever, except
Yeah,
I've got to
but
go to
we've
fucking
probably,
Norwich.
We've probably had you on for too long anyway, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
thank you very much, and thank you, Scroobius Pip, for coming, and thank you for listening or watching, because it is on YouTube if you didn't know. Good night, afternoon.